The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days when Sarah Martinez heard the knocking at her door. Now, you might think that's not so unusual, except Sarah lived alone in a cabin 40 miles from the nearest town, and it was 3:47 in the morning. The knocking was methodical, patient. 5 beats, then silence. Over and over again. Sarah had moved to the Cascade Mountains 6 months earlier, craving solitude after a messy divorce. The cabin was her sanctuary. Isolated, peaceful, surrounded by towering pines that whispered secrets when the wind picked up. But that night, as the rain hammered against her roof like 1,000 desperate fingers, she realized that isolation cuts both ways. She stood frozen in her bedroom, listening. The knocking continued, its rhythm never changing. 5 beats. Silence. She tried to convince herself it was just a branch, but branches don't knock with such deliberate intention. Branches don't wait as if expecting an answer. Against every instinct screaming at her to stay put, Sarah crept toward the living room. That short walk felt like miles.
You can't escape
Each floorboard seemed to groan, announcing her presence to whatever stood on the other side of that door. And then, the knocking stopped. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The silence was somehow worse. Underneath the roar of the rain, she heard something else. Breathing. Heavy, wet breathing, just beyond the door. "Who's there?" Her voice cracked, betraying her terror. Nothing. Just the rain and that terrible ragged breathing. She backed away slowly, reaching for her phone. No signal. Of course. The satellite phone was in her car, parked 50 yards away. Might as well have been on the moon. That's when she heard the scratching. It started at the bottom of the door, long, deliberate drags of something sharp against the wood. Measured. Purposeful. Whatever was out there was in no hurry. It had all the time in the world. Sarah grabbed the hunting rifle her father had insisted she keep. Its weight was a small comfort as she pointed it at the door with shaking hands. "I have a gun," she shouted. "I'll use it." The scratching stopped. Silence again. And then, a voice. Sarah. It was her own voice. Her exact voice, speaking her name. The air in the cabin grew frigid. "Sarah, please let me in," her voice pleaded. "I'm so cold. I'm so wet. Please." She wanted to scream, but her throat was paralyzed. This wasn't real. Things don't just steal your voice. "I'm not alone out here, Sarah," her voice continued, but now there was something else underneath it. A sound like grinding metal and breaking glass. "There are others in the woods. They're hungry. They're coming. Let me in before they get here." As if on cue, she heard footsteps outside. Dozens of them crunching through the undergrowth surrounding the cabin. Sarah ran to the window and peered through the curtains. What she saw made her legs nearly give out. At least 20 people stood at the edge of the tree line, perfectly still in the torrential rain. Some wore summer clothes, others wore nothing at all. They just stood there, staring. "They can't come in unless invited," her voice said from the door, "but I can protect you if you let me in. We made a deal, remember? Last week by the stream?" Her mind raced. Last week, she'd gotten lost hiking. She'd found a stream and followed it back, but along the way, she'd found a strange circle of stones. She'd taken a photo, thinking it was interesting. "You said you'd do anything to not be alone," the voice reminded her. "You said it 3 times while looking at the circle. 3 times is binding, Sarah. You invited me. Now, let me in." She had said that. God help her, she had. The figures at the tree line took a single step forward in perfect unison. Last chance, Sarah. She made her decision. Kicking open the back window, she ran. The rain hit her like a physical force. She didn't look back. The 50 yards to her car felt like 50 miles as mud grabbed at her feet. She could hear them behind her, splashing, getting closer. She reached her car, fumbled with the keys, dropped them. When she bent to pick them up, she saw bare feet. Dozens of them, surrounding her. She looked up. The figures were in a circle around her, close enough to touch. In the dim porch light, she could finally see their faces, or rather, where their faces should have been. They were smooth, featureless, blank as eggs. All except one. The one directly in front of her had Sarah's face, wearing an expression of profound sadness. "Why did you run?" it asked in her voice. "I was trying to help you. Now, they're going to help you instead." The others closed in. As a smooth, stone-cold hand covered her mouth, her doppelganger whispered, "Don't worry, it doesn't hurt for long, and you won't be alone anymore. You'll never be alone again." Through her car window, she saw the satellite phone on the passenger seat light up, vibrating with an incoming call from her own number. 3 days later, a park ranger found Sarah's cabin empty, her car unlocked with the keys in the ignition. Her phone showed 47 missed calls from her own number. Sarah Martinez was listed as a missing person. But about 2 months later, that same ranger was checking the sealed cabin. As he approached, he heard knocking from inside. 5 beats, then silence. He drew his weapon and called out. The knocking stopped. Then a woman's voice came from within. Sarah's voice. "Please, let me in. I'm so cold." The ranger looked toward the trees. 21 figures were watching from the shadows. He got in his truck and drove away, putting in for a transfer the very next day. They say the cabin still stands. Local hikers report strange knocking, voices calling their own names, and stone circles that appear overnight. And when it rains, they sometimes see a woman matching Sarah's description at the edge of the forest, staring with profound sadness. Sometimes she speaks. "Don't make deals you don't understand. And whatever you do, when you hear that knock in the middle of the night, don't ask who's there, because they'll answer. And once they do, they'll never stop trying to get in." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more chills. Stay safe out there.